What's the topic name?
It is the highest work is embracing and forgiving your past.
Okay, yeah.
And this is actually one of probably, it's almost like a follow-up lesson because I think we did lessons on forgiveness, a couple of lessons way back.
Mm-hmm.
So this right here is more of how to work in the level of forgiveness, if that makes sense. In other words, well, what is everybody's definition of forgiveness is?
I think everybody will be different.
Yeah, exactly.
Forgiveness is, to me, is accepting the things that happen. No, it doesn't have to be towards another person. It can be to an event too, right? But to forgive, do you have, there's a phrase saying that forgive and forget, right? To forgive part might be easier. To the forget part might be harder, especially if the thing happens again after you do the forgiving.
Correct.
Same thing happens again. They say, "Oh my God, I shouldn't have forgiven you the other time yet."
Right. And especially if it's a repeat offense.
Yeah.
That is the real test of how many times can you forgive and love.
Yeah, and then say, "Oh, I'm not gonna keep forgiving anymore," kind of.
Right. That person's unreasonable. They're evil. They're whatever, and then there's a judgment.
Yeah.
And now we cannot really forgive them, and not learn the biggest lesson is what we're learning from them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any other ones?
To carry on what Dad said, to forgive and forget, I somewhat agree to that statement growing up with that kind of statement. At the same time, with more realization, we can never forget.
Right.
We're gifted to have consciousness and our thoughts as our sixth sense, but it comes with a double-edged sword because you will remember both the good and the bad, no matter how much you try to forget the bad.
Right.
But that does not mean that you cannot forgive. And that's where the forgive comes in, whereby, like, yes, they've made those actions before. And yes, you have forgiven them. If they repeat the same mistake, just like how you mentioned, how are you going to react the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth or the 100th time from there on? Right. And it's like a test of our own to actually forgive. I did have an incident. It was a long time ago with my friend who always make the same mistake, but I for some reason still stuck with him. Remember Chris, Dad, the big Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, long story short, he's studying engineering with me back at UMBC, and part of me, I'd say half of me hates him. The other half of me enjoys spending time with him. And he will always make the same mistake, and I will always let it go. But at the same time, I always hold a grudge against him. And so I think the last straw that I did was when I was working as a financial advisor, and I gave him advice on how to handle his money, because I can tell he was buying a lot of things and he was spending too much and he didn't seem to be listening. And so when I was giving the presentation of my mentor, he was not listening at all, which is the one perk that I hate him so much for. And even worse, he was playing on his phone this time. And he was also, with his left hand, munching on the cherries that I got for our group to discuss on, right? So it's obvious he was not listening at all. And my mentor was still continuing to present anyway. And at the end of the presentation, instead of, "Hey, do you have any questions?" I'll be like, "Okay, Chris, I'll see you next week." Just like that. And my mentor was staring at me, looking at me so confused, like, why are you sending him off right now? We haven't finished the session yet, right?
Right.
And so my mentor played along with me anyway. Judy was like, "Oh, okay, fine, we'll follow. What are you doing?" And sent him off right out the door. As soon as I closed the door, I turned to her. "He's not one of us. Totally not. I thought he was my best friend. but it's obvious that he does not want to take any hint from me, and that was it. I forgave him what it was. I don't think I said that, but in my head I was like, I'm just gonna let it go. It's fine as is. I'm gonna let him learn his lesson, and then he'll come back to me later.
Right.
2 years later, in fact, he contacted me just a few months ago. He was like, "Hey, Anson, how are you?" I was like, "Oh, I never heard from you for a while."
Right.
And he said this like, "I think I need help with my money." And that's when I sent him the contact of my mentor once again. I don't know where it is right now, but it's the way it is. Do I still have some grudges with him? I don't know. I still, again, it goes back to the part of half of me likes who he is, the other half of me hates who he is. But it's just the way it is, right? And once again, forgive and forget. It's hard to forget, but I can always forget the part where he did a lot of bad things and just continue from then on to forge a new path, I suppose.
That is the thing about what Pastor Mickey always tells us. You actually planted the seed at that time, whether or not he accepted.
That's right.
The seed already planted there. And then when it grows, he realizes it, so he calls you.
Exactly. Yeah. And back then, I didn't know what if I planted the seed, right? Because we haven't met pastor or we haven't learned anything about that. And yeah, it just came back to me. I was like, oh, I have not seen this number before. And I actually had to text him back. It's like, who is this?
That's the web of relationship. And that's that seed that we forget about that comes back. And you say, and here's the thing. When you forget about it, here's the thing about forgetting it. You don't consciously forget about it, but what we're saying is you don't point at it anymore. You don't judge it anymore. You don't give it the value anymore. In other words, their mistakes are no longer important to you. Not that we dismiss them or ignore them, because those would be erroneous thinking. Does that make sense? But we don't judge them, and we learn to say, you know what? I've learned to not judge my best friend, and I learned to meet him where he's at. And when he's ready to be mature, where I am at in our relationship, if he's a real friend, he'll come back.
That's right.
It takes 24 months for him to work it out and go, wow, I need Anson. And all of a sudden, and that was probably around the time where we were talking about the law of attraction and thinking about people. And I said, well, they'll come to you. And here they are popping up. And then you see the seed, all of a sudden, now he sees the importance of what happened 2 years. Not necessarily, he might remember, he might not, we don't know, but for sure, he remembers, hey, you're good with money and you're good with finances and you have connections. So, and here's the unique thing about it. It's ironic that your number hasn't changed in that long. Think about it.
What do you mean by that?
Your phone number. You could have easily got a new phone with a new phone number. It would have made him a little bit harder for him to contact you.
Yeah.
He'd have to either go through Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You had the same number.
Yeah.
And he had the same number. Wow.
Yeah. I guess the most important part as well is to not dwell on it.
Correct.
Especially if you want to try to forgive people.
Correct.
Because the moment you start dwelling on it is when that turns into a grudge eventually.
Right. And I would use a better word instead of saying, oh, I hate that what he does, just say, I really, really, really dislike his actions, because we don't really want to hate it, because at the end of the day, he's a free will spirit to choose what he wants to do. And when we make those choices, we have to say, what, am I judging him because of this? Well, yeah. How can I not judge him? And how can I see him in a different light? And you're very good at saying, you know what, I'm going to just let this go. I'm very good at saying, you know what, I'm going to let it go. And some people might say, oh, that's a cop out. That's an easy way out. But that's how we deal with it for ourselves, dealing with other people, because we can't change people. You can't change the world. It took him 2 years to catch up with okay, I need to get sound in my finances now. Maybe a girl came in, maybe life happened. What we don't know. Probably a girl, more than likely. But
you got no money?
Another 2 years, you might say that 2 years for him to actually take action and discussing with you.
Right. Exactly. And when we talk about forgiving your past, this is actually another form of creation. And I think that's question one is what is creation and how does creation become powerful? What can you do with the great glory of time given to you? And these are all great questions. What happens each time you have a loving thought? What happens each time you have a fearful thought? Miracles are natural signs of forgiveness. Through miracles, I accept God's forgiveness by extending it to others. And that's the truth of it. So we don't forget about it. It would be impossible for us to forget about it. And if we did, it would be very erroneous because we would allow that error to happen again and again and again. And we would be either brutalized or victimized or vice versa and never learn to forgive them. But more importantly, learn to forgive ourselves to having a thought of judgment against them. Does that make sense? So over time, it really takes time to forgive somebody over and over and over and over. Oh my goodness. You know how disciplined you have to be? And you know how, and honestly, everybody has, I would call a breaking point to say, you know what? Hey, we're just not good in this web relationship. But I tell people before those relationships end temporarily, make sure that when there's forgiveness, there's love attached to that forgiveness. In other words, when Anson detached from Chris, it was no love lost and there was no animosity. It was just, hey, we're not jiving together and it's okay for us not to jive together. It doesn't mean I love you less or love you more. You know what I'm saying? We're still there, It wasn't like when he called you up, you was like, oh, you scumbag, you screwed this thing up and embarrassed me in front of Judy. And you didn't say any of those things. Matter of fact, the most important thing, you didn't bring it up. Why should I give you another opportunity in front of my mentor for you to mess this up and embarrass me again?
That's right. So to say, I left it as is, and I did not let it grow into a negative manifestation, I suppose. And whenever people would bring up that name, I won't remember all the negatives of him. I won't remember how he just despises people, wherever it is, but more of like, I did have some fun times with him. I remember making a trebuchet with him and nearly destroying a garage house. So that was fun. But yeah, it's something like that, right? It's the positives that remind me of people instead of just the negatives, I'd say.
Right. You have your attractions, you have your distractions. Everybody does. And that's what makes it unique, because at the end of the day, you learn to really love Chris for who he is and not for his action that he does. And that's a great lesson. And boy, that's a good lesson. In the lesson, once again, we come forth to abide with you from that place which has never truly been left. We come not as that are apart from you, but those who walk with you and one that is choosing. We come as those who are set forth to the call of awakening, to heal, to rise, and to welcome love unto every dark corner where once the ego had sought authority. And really, that's where forgiveness has to start, is forgiving the ego. When the ego is taken over and people are unreasonable, especially toward us, and we feel like we're victims. This is where the ego takes over. So we come forth because we love you and because we are love. Above all, remember always, we come forth because love is eternally attracted to its own. You and Chris had a great time attracted in love. Lily and Sudie came together because they were attracted in love. Me and the wife came together and so forth and so on. At the end of the day, it's still the law of attraction, but here it is. When you're in that love set, you're in the holy mind of God, because you're not thinking fearful. You're not thinking judgmental. You're not thinking condemnation. You're not thinking woulda, coulda, shoulda if I let Chris back in or let this person back in when I know exactly how they are. You know, and especially if you start seeing old signs of their pattern arise and you go, oh, here it comes. You already know. And you kind of start bracing for shot and mind kind of shifts gears, you know, and it's, as we say, being in tune at that moment, in that now, okay? And it's not to suffer the world. It's not to become identified with the illusion, but to transform each illusion through the constant practice of remembering, okay? I am my Father one. Only love is real and love alone heals. My commitment to the reality of love, therefore, Father brings each moment to me that I might learn anew to love and allow that love to transform temporary illusion, which extends a good, holy, and beautiful. Now, everybody's always asked that life question is, what is my life purpose? Here lies your life purpose. Oh my God, I'm finally going to tell you, yay! Your function and your function only is to have great joy. That's it. Have great joy. Enjoy life to the fullest.
Yes.
To the fullest, whatever that means to you. In other words, in the simplest terms, whatever brings you the happiest. Because when it's from the happiest place, it comes from the holy mind of God, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay? Also, all creation awaits on your welcome. When you learn to forgive, you bless everything. You bless your food, correct?
Yes.
Why do we bless the food? Out of tradition, or are we traditionally blessing it because we are in great appreciation of the substance that was brought forth and what it supplies to the body? Or some people just say it out of habit. You know what I'm saying? So when you're truly in tune, man, you bless everything. You see the rainbow and you go, wow, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Or you see the succulent plant and you go, wow, that is very beautiful plant. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or the mountains or the terrain or the oceans or the lakes and those clouds and whatever creation is beautiful. Even the things that you create, you have to say, hey, these are beautiful things. The house that you created is a beautiful house. And now you can turn the blue walls into a maroon wall or a yellow wall or a polka dot wall or a blank wall if you want. That's the beauty. You can put a picture up or not put a picture up, you know? And creation does not wait for you to be as a brick on the wall for you to hit your head upon. Creation does not wait upon you to scuttle your dreams and your plans. Creation is innocent. Creation is innocent. So creation is utterly powerless. It becomes powerful according to that which you give unto value, the meaning, the purpose, and the function. Does that make sense? This is what creation is. This is why we say don't curse the creation. People get the new phone, and then within a year later or 2 years, when the new phones come out, they hate that new phone.
Yeah.
They want the new updated one. Not realizing, bless that creation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What is the meaning of it? What is the purpose of it? What is the function of it? What am I putting value into these things? Because these things are only really what? Temporary. Okay? These things come not from creation itself, but rather they are extended to it. They flow to it. This is where the law of attraction is. And honestly, let me ask you a question. Where does creation come from? Where does creation come from? If you had to take a guess. On everything I've ever taught, where would creation come from?
From the creator.
Yes. Where is the creator? Greater is he who is in me. Even though creator is everywhere, yes, but we are the what? Vessel.
Yeah.
So we are one with creator, so creator has to be in us.
Yes.
And if creator is in us, creation is in us, which means everything you need comes out of you. This is why we say if you don't go within, you go without.
Mm-hmm.
Your houses come from within you, your money, your wives, your husbands, your children, animals, everything comes within you. Think about how your hair grows. It grows what? Out.
Mm-hmm.
Birds' feathers grow out. Trees grow out. Everything comes from within goes out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So to penetrate creation through the minds, which share the one mind of God, which is in every one of us. So each time we create, here's what happens. Each time we create, we are co-creating with the Creator.
Mm.
All things good, holy, and beautiful.
Mm.
Then what we do is we put a meaning, purpose, and a function to that creation.
Yes.
And one word, we'll call it value.
Mm-hmm.
What do we value out of what we have created in this moment? Sometimes, and actually it comes in, creation in the simplest term comes in two forms: seen, not seen.
Mm-hmm.
Simplest form. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is why it is absolutely impossible to look upon anything that is outside of you. The great glory of time given unto you, the time you experience as body, mind upon a apparent planet, upon a apparent physical universe, is this. The great glory and gift of time is that you remain infinitely free to decide how you choose to perceive creation. And in other words, the meaning, the purpose, and the function. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And therefore, imbue it with the power that either reflects illusion and the creation of fear or extends the good, holy, and beautiful. Each time you think a loving thought, you have literally blessed all infinite realms of creation. And matter of fact, everything. If you have a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage, and you're like, oh, this is so good.
Mm.
And you're in your mind enjoying it before you even take, you bless that creation, and then you go through the what? Experience of, oh, that's as good as I thought it was going to be, and even better.
Yes.
Right? And if it meets and goes beyond expectation, now that perception is 100-fold, because now you feel it in the body, and now nothing else matters other than, oh man, what else can I do to enjoy this tea, this coffee, this beverage? What can I have my favorite newspaper or my favorite TV show, or let me sit in the front yard or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It is that where we begin to put the meaning, purpose, and function on it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Each time you have become unwittingly identified with a fearful thought, you have separated yourself from the perfect love of God, and you have denied yourself your functions. And it's very easy to have a fearful thought. Very easy. So easy that it catches people off time that they have to go, Pastor, how'd I get here? And I said, well, it came from a unwitting thought that you had, and really came from a perception, an idea, something that was unknown to you that you became fearful of. And you might not have put the word fear on it, but the vibration was within you. So if it was within you, it had to come out, and then there came the experience of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then what people try to do is deny it and then go, oh, it's evil. Oh, it's sin. Oh, it's whatever. Not realizing I need to step forward and overcome the fear, face the fear, embrace the fear, and then bless the fear. Wow. Nobody's ever said those words before. Because once you bless the fear, now you have the holy mind of God, where now you don't have fear, but the spirit of love, mind, and the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? Now you have that mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Here we're using the term separate. Yes.
Pastor, but does this, is it the same as some people keep saying that you have to face your fear, you have to face your fear? It's slightly different, right? Facing your fear means even though you still have that fear inside, but you are trying to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. rather than forgiving that form of fear, saying that okay, from now onwards, I shouldn't have that fear anymore. But face your fear means you are still fearful, but you are forcing yourself to overcome that feeling, hoping that someday, if you succeeded, okay, if you don't die doing that,
Correct.
you know, you are not fearful anymore. So it's
Correct.
not about the forgiving, but I think the one that says face your fear
Uh-huh.
is even more daunting than
Uh-huh.
I don't think some people can do it in the first place.
Can't do it. And the reason why I'm glad you brought that up, that was actually not in the lesson, but I use that word face your fear because people use it so randomly in
Yeah.
conversations that they have no meaning what that means.
Yes.
Even though everything you said is 100% correct to overcome that, but they don't even know how.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't, one, know how to confront it. One,
Yeah.
they don't know that they're the creators of the fear. And because they haven't identified that they created the fear, now it's hard to face the fear.
Yes.
And then here's the rationalization. When we go down to meaning, purpose, and function, look what they do to fear. They put meaning, purpose, and function in the fear. You see what I'm saying? And now, if you would ask them what they're fearful of, they'll give you every definition of why they're fearful, but the real definition. Real definition is fear equals death. You're
Yes.
afraid of dying. I'm afraid of heights. You're afraid of dying. You're
Right.
afraid of falling out of the sky and hitting the ground and thumping and bouncing and dying instantly, and it's hurting.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you're going to transition after that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate. So facing the fear says, you know what? I don't have to face all of them at one time, do I?
Yes.
I can face one fear and then get stronger. And I don't have to start with the biggest one. I can start with, okay, some might be afraid of spiders. Let me start with spiders. Let me start with, whatever. Let me start small instead of trying to tackle a big mountain all at once, because that would be impossible. The rarity of people would be successful in doing it because fear is taught.
Yeah.
Fear is taught. From the first time somebody went, boo, and jumped behind a door or scared you or told a scary story, that took the imbalance because of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And now that spirit of fear came in and started putting tension within the body. And now the tunnel vision, the erratic breathing, erratic heart. Now you have irrational thinking per se. Not in all cases, but fearful people do desperate things. You ever notice that?
Yes.
And sometimes when they do that, what are they generating more of? More fear, more fear, and more fear. How can they ever face their fear if they are never taught what fear is and where it came from?
Yeah.
So the easiest way I start telling people how to overcome fear and facing their fear, satisfied, not satisfied. Because fear starts with what? A thought, a perception. So if I can change the thought and the perception to a blessed thought, now it's almost impossible to think a fearful thought. Not that we forget it, but now we're not putting meaning, purpose, and function on it. We're not putting the value on it. If I'm happy and ecstatic and excited, it's almost impossible for me to be fearful at the same time. It's almost like a contradiction. Can't serve two masters. You're going to love one and hate the other. So the easiest way to teach people how to get out of fear is, hey, is that a satisfying thought? Well, no. Well, if you had to overcome fear, how would you overcome it? Wow. Now, are we telling them to face it physically or mentally? And once they start to rationalize within their own awakening of their consciousness of, wow, if I really had to overcome fear, how would I do it? You know what I'm saying? And some people, I don't know. And then you got to kind of give them a little nudge. Okay, well, let me help you out. Well, if you had to start here, how would you start? What would be the better feeling story if you were in this situation? What would you do? Oh, I would run. Okay, well, what would you run to? Why would you run? Where if there was no place to run? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is how people really are to face their fears. Some people actually physically go face their fears by, if they're afraid of heights, they'll go parachuting or parasailing.
Yeah.
I know people that go to extreme, and once they do it, they're no longer fearful.
Yes.
They didn't die from it. They jumped out of the plane, 30,000 feet, with the instructor, had the little camera on, pulled the cord, went up, and had a smooth ride down to earth. And went, wow, I love that. I want to do it again. So now that perception and illusion of heights is no longer there.
Yeah.
Now that's rare. You rarely have people that really just can jump both feet forward and overcome fear like that.
It's kind of like impossible to even get him on the plane.
Yeah, exactly. If I told my dad, who's afraid of heights, to fly here, you'd probably have to knock him out,
Yeah.
tie him up, because he ain't getting on that plane. Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I think that's it.
Yep.
All right. Any questions, comments, concerns?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, love you all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a good week. See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.